Here at Impact, we talk a lot about recording your sales calls to improve your skills. But what exactly should you be looking for? Well, today we have marketing and sales consultant Connor DeLaney with us to walk us through it. How's it going, Connor?
It's going great, Austin.
Awesome. And I know here at Impact, we tell a lot of people that they should be recording their sales calls to watch and improve. But I kind of want to talk with you a little bit about how that actually looks when we're doing it as a company. And I think kind of the natural reaction I would assume for salespeople when they hear, hey, we're going to be watching our sales calls either together or separately, is to kind of just, I don't know if I want to do that. I don't know if I want my teammates watching me and judging my performance. What are some kind of ways we can set up expectations around this practice?
Yeah, recording and watching sales calls with your team can be intimidating. And so whether you're working with your team or even here at Impact, we always have to set guidelines ahead, and you have to reinforce those guidelines regularly, whether it's an existing team or if a new team member joins and has to join that. And some of the expectations or guidelines that every sales team should set is, number one, we're all adults. We're all here. We all understand that we have jobs and we're going to be mature about it. Number two, we're all here to get better. So the reason that we're recording calls and reviewing them together is to improve. It's not to pick on people. And that means that we're going to take it seriously. We're not going to be sarcastic. Yes, we can joke around. I'm not saying you can't, oh my God, I missed that. But you're here to get candid feedback. You're here to get support from your team so you can improve, because every individual's success is contributing to the company's success. And as a sales team, we're working as a unit and we want to see success together, and we want to be the wave that raises all ships. And the last guideline that every team should set when it comes to recording sales calls is defining what success looks like and what we're focused on, not only holistically, but on each sales watch party or sales training you're doing. What does success on this conversation look like? Why are we watching certain calls? What's the outcome we're looking for? Those are the expectations you have to set when you're starting to record sales calls and watching them with your team.
Yeah, that makes sense. And just remembering, like, everyone has best intentions. We all want what's best for each other, the company, and just general success. So keeping that in mind is important. So once we kind of have this culture set up, we know what to expect. We go in to watch these sales calls. What are we looking for?
Yeah, sometimes it depends, but take yourself through the typical journey of a sales call. You start right at the beginning. How are you starting your calls? Are you setting expectations right? Are you building rapport? Are you getting the conversation started? And then are you getting the customer talking right away? Are you asking an informed question right at the beginning? Are you digging into something that gets them immediately engaged in the call? The thing that I see most that hurts salespeople is you can win or lose a call in the first 2 minutes of a conversation, whether that's an initial explore call, whether that's a late stage conversation. Those first couple minutes mean a lot. So are you setting the right expectations? Are you getting the customer locked in on the call that you're having and moving them in the right direction, starting to build momentum? As you continue to watch sales calls and as you dig deeper into that sales journey, the next step is, are we asking great questions? Are we digging deeper into the conversations? And the analogy I like to use for this is we're scuba diving. We're swimming along the surface. We see something that's really interesting and we dig deeper. That's what a sales conversation needs to look like, is we're finding information, we're learning, we're going back and forth. And then we find something, we really dig into it, because that's probably the reason that someone's on the call. They wouldn't have booked it if they didn't have a reason to talk to you. And the way that you do that when it comes to asking great questions, you've got to be short and clear and direct. If you're going to ask a question, don't beat around the bush with it. Go straight in for it. You've got to time it. You can't just be randomly asking questions. You've got to ask it in a way that flows with the conversation. And lastly, you've got to be curious. You've got to have a curiosity mindset on sales calls. Oh, why is that? Tell me more about that. Not, okay, so anyway, let's talk about this, because then you're just forcing them to tell them what you want versus genuinely showing interest. And as you go to the third and final stage of the journey of a sales call, it's, are we setting next steps? Are we moving forward and getting the next conversation booked? A sales call is all about building momentum. You always want to be driving towards the next place. You want to have a path that you're taking this customer on, whether they fully know it or not. And you want to keep them excited throughout that journey. Energy's got to be high. And you've got to ask yourself this question at the end of a call: do they understand what's coming next? If you're nailing these three sections, how we start calls, how we dig in and ask great questions, and are we setting the right expectations for what happens next, then you're starting to dig into specific principles or components throughout each of those. That's what's going to lead to success when you're reviewing sales calls with your team.
Cool. Yeah, I like how, you have the big three and then you can kind of look into different areas of those. I like how you laid that out.
And you can nitpick that all the time. You can always find little moments. When we review sales calls, I just had a review earlier today, actually, and we reviewed a specific question I asked at a specific moment that was a turning point in the call, and whether it was good or bad. And we talked about why that redirected the conversation in a certain way. You can get really nitpicky, but those are the three principles of what I always look for when I'm doing sales calls reviews.
Awesome. So if you're not in one of these watch parties, I know there's a lot of value in watching these calls together, but if you're going to watch a call on your own, do you think you could learn more by reviewing one of your own calls that you've had or by watching one of your teammates' calls to kind of see how they handle different situations?
I'm going to give you the it depends answer because both are going to be incredibly valuable. Now, if you go and watch your own calls, you're always going to be hypercritical. I know I fall in this trap. I don't really know anyone that hasn't fallen in this trap, but usually if you have the right mindset, so clarifier there, if you have the right mindset about recording calls, you're going to watch every little thing you do and say, oh, I could have done that better. Oh, I wish I tweaked that. And it's going to be hard for you to see the positives. Now, there are salespeople who they go and watch their own sales calls and say, yeah, everything looked great to me. Those are probably not the right people that we're doing here. They don't understand the purpose. But there's a lot of value in watching your own calls because you're also going to catch your own issues. You're going to catch your own things that you did really well. And you're going to have a better self-awareness. When you watch others' calls, I always recommend you watch for those principles first with other calls. You're always going to be hyper-focused on yourself. But when you watch the other calls, you can see the bigger picture because you're not as involved. You don't have the context behind it. It allows you to just focus on, I'm seeing this entire conversation happen versus I was there in the moment. I know all these little things that are coming up. But there's incredible value for watching both and watching them on your own. And that's where I think a lot of sales teams to take watching sales calls and building, recording your calls to the next level is building a library of calls that do things really well or calls that could have been improved. But most of the time, you want what success looks like. And the teams that use their recordings, this is the next step for them, is build out what does a great introduction to a call look like? What's a great setting next steps and setting expectations look like? Build those examples throughout your sales process, and they become great reference points for other salespeople, whether they're your own calls or other calls. That's where I see the next step being when teams are looking at recording calls. That's how you build that library and build long-term success for your team too.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then when you watch your own calls and see like, ooh, I'm really struggling in this one area, you have that library to be, that's right there that you can just go look at it and see how success is done there. That's cool.
Yeah. And sometimes it's building your own confidence. For some sales folks, like you nail it one time, it's like baseball. You're not going to walk up and get a hit 100% of the time. But if you can see yourself getting success, you learn from that success as much as you learn from the failures. The failures are quicker and they hurt a little more. But the long-term success is, I know I've done this before. I've learned this lesson. Let's continue tweaking and optimizing. Yeah, 100% right, Austin.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Connor, and thanks for sharing your expertise. And we're excited to see you on another episode.
Yeah, happy to be here. Looking forward to the next one, Austin.
Recording and watching your sales calls with your team could be a little intimidating. But once you just get over that and you go ahead and do it, following the structure that Connor gave here today, you will definitely see the benefits. If you and your team need help with your sales and sales strategy, contact us at impactplus.com today.